Now we're going back to this arsehole. Don't know why we're going back to see what this guy's been up to. Ah man, I love the designs of the Elite Honor Guard. Or maybe it's because they really stand out and bring some colour to these bland backgrounds. Never thought I'd get sick of seeing purple. Anyways, we see Thal being demoted to Spectre status. Now known as the Arbiter, with what looks like impractical and dated armor, his first task being assassinating a real heretic. Oh man, sounds like fun. Wish we could do that instead of watching this cutscene of someone else doing it. Why are we focusing so much on this guy? It's not like he's going to be a playable... Holy shit. Ah man, the rumors were true. You play as an elite. Well, he pretty much plays the same as Chief though. That being, he moves around like he's on ice and jumps like he's on the moon. Except in place of Chief's flashlight, he has the armor ability to cloak. He's even taught to the player in a rather decent way, with the other Covenant forces cloaking and getting hinted at that you can. Although, I find it strange that this is the only time you'll see cloaking grunts. Could make for an interesting, if somewhat weak, enemy to fight. It's a good ability, but it's too easy for the enemies to notice the player. Not only that, but the duration is really short, so you have to know ahead of time of where you want to go. The biggest problem is that the recovering time takes way too long. So you end up using it at the start of an area, failing soon after, then just forget about using it until the next area. It is possible to get through an entire area without getting caught, but doing so requires too much time and effort. I understand that they didn't want camo to be too useful, but it would be nice if it lasted longer or if the recovering time was a little bit shorter. Not only that, but we start the level equipped with an energy sword, or plasma sword as everyone likes to call it. For a franchise that has regular melee as a separate button, what use would a melee weapon have? Well, the fact that it can kill pretty much anything in one hit and has a pretty nasty lunge. It uses ammo though, so don't expect to find yourself relying on it too much. You're also vulnerable with it equipped and can only throw grenades. It's a good trade-off, but I don't think many people will be trading safety over risk. Also taking a moment to pick up the equivalent to the battle rifle, the Covenant Carbine. And like the BR, it pretty much fills the same role. It may be weaker, but it has a faster firing rate. Pretty much kills in the same amount of time as well. It's different enough to not be a simple reskin like the Covenant Sniper Rifle, but still kinda wish the weapons were different enough from each other. Look at that, and like a gravity conveyor belt. It's little touches like that that makes the game feel more alive. What, they have drones now? Wait, those are fucking Sentinels. What the fuck are they doing here? Well, maybe we'll figure that out later since they're hostile. Now, if we remember their role in Halo 1, you'll need to... Wow, they got fucking nerfed to the point that they're fucking worthless to fight. They don't even try and make up for it with superior numbers. They just die so quickly, I don't see the point in them even being hostile to the player. Destroying one reveals something new. They dropped the Sentinel Beam weapon. This weapon is really strong and accurate, capable of attacking all enemies at any range, although it can't zoom. But it has a very short battery life and you'll need to exchange it fairly regularly. You'll come across the Heretic Leader and need to hunt him down by piloting a Banshee. Didn't really expect to control a Banshee this early. Also wasn't expecting the theme for this area to be followed by Incubus. Personally, I never really liked it when video games have actual songs within segments of gameplay that haven't been modified to fit the game. At least here it's pretty decent, even it would be better suited for a more traditional chase sequence. The Banshee is pretty similar to before, although now it has a boost and the ability to perform rolls and flips. Flipping is mostly useless as the cannons have had their accuracy increased and you can deal with most threats from a distance. We see that the Covenant has somewhat effective weaponry against the vehicles and they remote to adding grunts wielding fuel rod cannons this time. Not only that, but you can actually use the fuel rod cannons without them exploding. While the cannon is weaker to the rocket launcher and has less splash damage radius, it's more effective to spam and cover a much wider area, although it does lack its lock-on ability. The difference between these two weapons is what I want to see more of. So just like before, this level ends abruptly.
What is it?
You hear that weird tingle? I've heard it before. Hey look! Obvious flood forms, or rather tadpoles. But why are they floating around so erratically? Ah fuck, I bet Vic broke the sea monkeys. If I didn't play Halo 1, I probably wouldn't even know what's about to happen. The Heretic appears via holodrone to confirm what you're doing. Anyways, what bugs me about the grunt shooting him is that he's clearly reacting and having his shield burst. Would have been better if he was actually a hologram and the bolts went right through him. An extra day of programming could have helped.
He must be close.
Now we're reintroduced to the Flood. Wow, I'm shaking in my hooves. Seriously, is this how they wanted to introduce the Flood again? I get that this is a sequel and most people would already be familiar with them, but they could have put in more effort here. The infection forms kinda just dribble all over the railing and Reedus is all like, watch out for the Flood, I guess. I can also see this area was set up to introduce a new feature for the Flood though. That being an infection form can revive, so to speak, a dead combat form to make it fight you again, requiring the player to either kill the baby Flood before they reach the bodies, or to double tap the Flood after you kill them. It's a nice little feature, but I doubt most people would ever notice. The bodies are set up where you're standing, so you're most likely going to kill the infection forms before they reach them, and even if you didn't, you probably won't notice or just think they were briefly playing dead. There are plenty of ways they could have shown this feature in a much better way, like having the bodies further back in the room so that you can see them getting back up again. Or have an area where you're behind a glass barrier that looks out to a scripted sequence of this happening. In its current form, I wouldn't be surprised if some players went through the whole game without knowing of this mechanic. Want to know how unknown it was? Well, I only noticed this happening during recording for this review 10 years after the game came out. After that, Reedus leaves, like ours, so that the player can't abuse his invincibility. Now we move on to a slow moving rotating elevator going down as Flood jump on and try to kill the player. Yes, we're going with the elevator trope. Not the last time either, and this is the least offensive one for the game. What really sucks though is that despite thinking the Sentinels would prioritize the Flood over the player, they'll still attack you. It really sucks having to deal with the Flood in melee while the Sentinels attack from a distance. You'll mainly be spending your time abusing their laser and regularly swapping out for a new one. At least you'll find the camo ability useful for disengaging and recovering your shields. You'll move through the rest of the facility dealing with constantly respawning Flood. Funny how being revived by infection forms actually make the Flood bags more threatening and requiring extra attention.
Leader, the storm is about to hit. We cannot maintain our position.
Why not just fucking bomb the place from orbit?
This will save me from the storm, but you will be consumed.
Wait, the storm will kill people still within the facility, but not behind the shield? In order to get the Heretic leader out of hiding, we will be moving upward and cutting the single large wire holding the facility in place. Yeah, or we can just bomb the whole place from orbit. Fucking hell. Well, at least it's nice we're doing something different aside from shooting everybody. Now the station will be falling for a very long time, while you move back through without hindrance from the turbulence. I think it would have been better if the wire didn't immediately snap, but the danger of it happening soon is what draws the leader out. Not only does it make more sense over falling for an extended period of time, but it can actually make the area sway back and forth to shake up the combat. Huh? Why haven't the Banshees fallen off yet? Oh, fuck off. Fuck off. Bull fucking shit, does this make any sense? You're moving through a facility that's falling down, but you're moving down with it. But if you stop flying, you'll fall upward. Fuck, this makes no sense. It makes so little sense, and the physics for this part is so messed up that the developer had to include a cutscene of you parking a Banshee because you can't actually get out. Eventually you clone the leader in front of a Serra ship, which we won't see any use in game for 6 more years. The leader, or Cessar, starts to inform the Arbiter the reasons for his betrayal.
Let the prophets lead me to slaughter.
Who has taught you these lies?
Oh, fuck off, 343. I was actually expecting you at some point.
Ask the Oracle about Halo. How they would sacrifice us all for nothing.
More questions? Splendid. I would be happy to assist you.
Well, what the fuck, Cessar? You wanted to reveal the truth and you opened fire when he's about to do so? Fucking moron. Ah! A pair of hunters! Oh wait, they're just reflections of light. Hey, now we see something that's not done in first-person shooters anymore. A boss battle! I'm not going to rant about boss battles in first-person games in general, just talk about this one. Serra throws out 2 holodrones that somehow materialize their own weapons and are capable of dealing and taking damage. Huh. The aim is to find the real Sarah and kill, quote unquote, him enough times to end the fight. Dealing enough damage to one of the clones will just disapparate them, and killing the real version will end his current phase, causing him to escape, then come back with 2 more clones. It's not a hard fight. If you abuse your camo, you can just wait it out until he passes by, or sit still and throw a plasma grenade onto him. 3 times and he's done. It would be more interesting if each time he came back with different equipment or different weapons or something. Once you're done, Guilty Spark starts informing you of what Halo actually does before being magnetized by Tartarus.
That is the Oracle. So it is.
Gee, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were trying to make Tartarus a one-dimensional villain for me to hate. Oh, and don't expand the cutscene to show the ship flying away. Like before, I'll be talking about both levels. This level is centered around the gas mine, which is one of the more interesting levels of the game, hanging by a tether over a large storm, and has interesting backstory for the lore. It's neatly varied with stealth segments, Banshee dogfighting, and changing the whole approach to combat when the Flood appear. Moving the Banshee and Flood to this early of a point in the main story was a risk Bungie probably did over the confidence of how the rest of the game played out. That being said, it still falters at points. I believe it would have been better if the storm was much closer from the beginning, with violent winds on the outside masking most sound effects and dialogue, with heavy beating along the walls when you're inside. Could really make the player unsettled with how vulnerable they feel even while inside. Bringing back the Flood was rushed, trying to keep the pace of the game up to a faster speed, but sacrificing the atmosphere to prevent the game from running too long. Another problem is that the history of the mine is too subtle. Most people wouldn't be fully aware of what it's doing here or why the Flood were locked up here. They're answered by Guilty Spark, and I'm going to call him Nigel, during the boss fight, but you'll most likely miss it as you're busy dealing with Cesar. It's possible to defeat him before Nigel even finishes his first plot dump. The only way you could have probably fixed it is if you introduced Nigel earlier and had him explain the facility while moving through it, especially when you get to the Flood holding cells. I don't really want a Wikipedia visit to figure it out. But the main concern about this level though is the sudden control over the Arbiter, so let me give my thoughts. Originally when I discovered this, I was really annoyed, mainly because of the typical immature hero worship over Chief. But soon when I got older, I stopped looking at the world so black and white, and wanted more reason and motivation for my villains in video games. It's actually a nice change of pace to play as the enemy, and give some insight into the culture of the Covenant, even if it's just a little. I feel as though more developers should try this risk. But the problem is similar to Metal Gear Solid 2, there was no hint of controlling the Arbiter, aside from rumors when the game was leaked. It came as a surprise, and my guess is that Bungie was trying to replicate the introduction of the Flood from Halo 1. It doesn't work though, there was no real setup aside from 2 disconnected cutscenes, and it happens right after Chief disappears chasing that Prophet. People usually aren't too happy with cliffhangers, even if you find out what happens an hour later. Speaking of, let's revisit Chief as he revisits Halo. Why are we going back to Halo? Because the title of the game is Halo. Chief joins up with some ODSTs and dive bombs the Covenant's party, in a cutscene that has a grunt playing with something different depending on difficulty setting. Okay, that's enough.
Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
That line was terrible. Anyways, in case you missed it before, you'll start with a rocket launcher. Similar to Halo 1, a chance to play with a weapon early if you look around, and then a moment later to get some real use out of it. But it has the problem of being overpowered and making these turrets a fucking joke to deal with. After clearing the area, Al drops off a Warthog for another Halo level? Just around the corner, you'll find a weird bridge device thing. The fuck? Okay, what happened to the light bridges from before? Why wouldn't they be universal for all Halo rings? Or did each Halo have their own architect and the one who designed this Halo was eccentric? It's a small bump in the road. Made at least somewhat interesting by Race pounding on the walls. So Al gives us another tank, yeah, that Warthog got some use. And the next area of the game is really simple with no real fucking challenge. Wait, why did the Forerunners design such Aztec themed buildings? Especially when they were supposed to be a highly advanced species that were capable of creating weapons of galactic destruction. So you continue to move through the areas, getting a moment to be told about smacking enemies in the back, I guess. Having another fight with fuck! Having another sniper fight with jackals.
It's odd. The Covenant know we made landfall, but they don't seem to consider us a very serious threat.
Did you see the size of her fucking ship? I don't care if you have Chief on board. All it will take is a cruiser to bump it and use its windshield wipers to scrape the remains off the bow.
Watch yourself. Honor guards.
Oh no! We better watch out for the deadly... Oh, I guess they're really not that intimidating. Clearing this room will end the level. I just hate how the levels end so abruptly. Cortana chimes in about what the Prophet has been saying, giving some explanation for the sudden change from the native language to English. It's nice they took the time to explain why they're all speaking English, even though the real reason is because of the Arbiter, but it really interrupts with the immersion of the game. It sounds so odd for aliens to be speaking our language with the same lip movements. And it raises the question of why Cortana didn't translate their speech in Halo 1.
I've located a library similar to the one you found on the first Halo.
How did you find it? Whatever. Alana decides to split up with her army going to the library, while Chief is tasked to take out the Prophet, because we can't just shoot his temple with our fucking Mac cannon or anything.
You know, I think the Forerunners built these new structures around the old, to protect them, honor them.
How does decaying rocks and plants protect and honor their heavy metal? Soon you come across what Cortana labels a gondola. Hey, whatever happened to fucking teleporting? So you have to activate the gondola, which has very little cover, attack the opposing gondola that somehow stops yours, and leaves once you kill everyone. You know, it could have been more interesting for Cortana to force us to jump across to activate a panel to break off and jump back. Then you move on to take out the defenses, because apparently that's all they have. Ah, that's neat. They still managed to keep in some exploring element. Although it still feels like there's less opportunity. You take an underwater elevator to the next level. Cortana also chimes in here with an explanation for why the Covenant didn't just wipe the floor with humanity.
Premature arrival, arguing that no human presence was foretold.
You move through this underwater area, which has some nice visuals added in. You take another elevator up to get back outside. Well, it was a nice change of scenery to mix things up, but ultimately it was just pointless. Could have tossed in some intel on the Prophet's location to give it some purpose.
This is my last run, Chief. I'm nearly out of fuel.
What, does the gas come out of your own wallet? Anyways, might as well take a moment to talk about something new introduced in these two levels. Pelicans will drop off some— whoa! Fuck! Some weapon pods that contain a variety of human weapons for you to choose. It's a nice feature and natural progression for the game. It makes more sense to have these pods resupplying the player, rather than just finding them behind a rock, amidst dead marines. Move up to— fuck! to secure another gondola, which mixes up from the previous ride with banshees attacking the player. Too bad the rocket launcher is broken, or I might have enjoyed duking it out with vehicles. At least they throw some jetpackers at you. The last area for the level is a boss fight against the Prophet. While also dealing with elite honor guards, you have to deal with the Prophet's chair cannon, which is pretty much just a recolored fuel rod cannon ripped straight from hunters. There's no real point on wasting ammo on regret, so the ideal way is to move in close and jump onto his chair, having to throw several punches while you're going for a piggyback ride, and repeat 2 more times. I don't see why Chief just doesn't break his fucking neck, or shove a pistol into his mouth. This is one of the most annoying parts of the whole game, and wasn't thought out so clearly. The problem isn't really regret, it's the Covenant. They keep spawning in and forcing you to engage them. When slapping a regret, they may enter the room and wait to spam you with plasma bolts after he teleports. It's so frustrating to jump up to him, only to fall in range of an energy sword. It's also badly designed in restricting how you approach this event, with no real way to use anything aside from melee. Small changes could have helped with this fight. For example, rather than attacking him directly, there could be nodes scattered around the area that, when destroyed or deactivated, would lower his shields, giving you a chance to weaken him or take him out your own way. The Covenant shouldn't be spawning in, not at least until after you've given the Prophet a few blows. At least then you can focus on them briefly before making a jump for his fat ass. Wow, no wonder humanity has trouble taking on the Covenant. They respond so fast. Hey, Why can't this be in-game? It would make an intense final moment to have to jump down and outrun the glassing. Can we really not be trusted to run away?
This is not your grave, but you are welcome in it.
Ooh, foreboding. Too bad the dialogue sucks. These two levels are better designed compared to Chief's previous levels. Their pacing and variety in terms of gameplay and the environment are much better to explore and play around within, even if it does end with a really fucking annoying boss fight, so you have a better range to explore the collection of items and vehicles the game offers. The game will even respond if the player decides to ignore the Scorpion.
You don't want the tank. Okay, I guess we'll leave it for the others.
Although, like the sniper level from Halo 1, there's really no explanation for why the Pelicans couldn't just fly right to the last location, either including an area that points in the right direction, or having Chief blow up anti-air turrets as secondary objectives could have helped with the immersion. Could even make a nice challenge for players to attempt to finish the level without calling for backup. Leaving Chief on a much bigger cliffhanger, we go back to this arsehole. Due to the event of Chief shoving his fist in the Regret's face, the remaining Prophets believe the Elite are incapable of defending them from their enemies, and have them replaced with the Brutes. Obviously this is pissing a lot of people off, especially when Redis was explaining how easily he could have glassed the entire area Chief was located in, and keep glassing until they punch a hole through Halo to make sure he was dead. Thanks to torturing Nigel for the information, he would have told them anyways, he tasked the Arbiter with finding the index to activate Halo. We're actually going to go through the front door this time, although it's protected by an energy shield and will require deactivating. Ah, finally, extra tasks for us to complete that make sense in the context of the story. Ah, would you look at that? Tiny little robots that seem to be either collecting or repairing. Not sure why this was added on top of the Sentinels who have the same job, but hey, anything that helps the immersion and world building. Speaking of, Sentinels now have a shield. Yay! Too bad they're still weak. Boo! We're also introduced to them appearing through some sort of buzz gate, and really I don't see the point of these in the game. I mean, I guess they can explain how they get around Halo, but requiring the player to blow them up to prevent them from respawning is friggin' annoying. Mainly because there's always one just out of sight and requires the player to look around for them just to prevent the alarm from going off. Not only that, but we have to move through these okay, I have no idea what the fuck to call them. These pillars that are requiring being damaged to open up and allow someone to jump down. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? How does that make any sense in the context of the world? Do Sentinels have to regularly shoot these to move around? But they can teleport, so why have them at all? Why do these panels need to be damaged to function? Can't you just use a panel or a button? Oh hey, it's the giant robot thingy. Being set up like a boss battle, but it's actually just a tougher enemy, firing a barrage of lasers that can easily be dodged, or a barrage of rockets that can easily be dodged. Huh. They do have shields to the front that will take too long to normally overpower, so the best way is to avoid the shields and abuse your camo to attack it from the sides. Good thing the AI is rather shit. Remember, it's the little touches that brings a game to life.
Last of the shames! Make your own way through the wall, Arbiter!
Oh, fuck off, that's the reason. Your ship just hasn't been programmed with a damage system yet. Oh, fuck. The flood again? This time there'll be infected human forms wielding human weapons, but really what's the friggin' difference? It does give you a moment to play around with and deal with human weapons against yourself, but if you're the kind of person who reads up on other materia and lore, then wouldn't you be complaining that the Arbiter is wielding human weapons? They have recorded elites dying with a dried out plasma rifle over picking up a human weapon full of ammo, and where does he keep all that ammo? His suit doesn't seem to have any obvious pockets. Just like in Halo 1, you now don't want to deal with them anymore, so you'll just run through, either with a shotgun or energy sword. Made easier with camo though. What made me wonder about the developer's line of thinking are these punch pillars. Were they designed like this to give the player some tension or suspense to shoot them as they outrun the flood? Are the Flood designed to not be engaged? Especially with their fucking shotguns. So now instead of going down an elevator, you fall down these tubes that really feel out of place. Especially when the game glitches out and accidentally loads a snow texture on the interior. Now onto the inside of the inside part of the wall. You reach these two final areas of the level and have to hold off from waves of Flood. Although it's not as bad as it sounds. It won't last long before a dropship appears and signals the end of the level.
This zone is a sacred icon.
So Redis jumps down to ask if, I don't know, he's using his wallet or something. Come to think of it, what's he doing here?
Cut into the heart of this infestation, retrieve the icon, and burn any Flood that stand in our way.
Wow, really? That's the elite battle cry? It sounds more like an annoyed grunt. That's what I sound like when I die on a boss in Dark Souls when it has low health. Time to play with a new vehicle, the Spectre. It is nice that the Covenant get a new vehicle, which can easily be compared to the Warthog, but it has an extra seat, can boost, and hovers like a ghost. Oh fuck, really? I thought I couldn't hate the Flood any further. But it is a nice way to fight human vehicles though. I prefer taking on Marines to see how they deal as the enemy with better programming. Anyways, we see another feature with the Enforcers in regards to vehicles. They can move in close, pull you up, then destroy you and your vehicle with their massive arms. So you pretty much have to destroy them or their arms before the AI drives you close enough. So unless you want to risk boosting through, you pretty much have to stop and pick up a broken launcher. Oh man, look at those bolts reflect. I am so fucked. Moving outside, we can find, I guess a new vehicle? I mean, it's a Wraith. They were in Halo, but now you can actually pilot them. They have an arcing plasma mortar cannon that fires about as fast as the Scorpion's main cannon, but needs leading and travel time to hit targets. It also has a small boost to knock out enemies at close range. I find it to be better balanced over the Scorpion, but the reticle doesn't really help the player judge distance, and you can't control the secondary cannons. And personally, I prefer it if the mortar had to be charged before firing. At least that way the radius and damage can increase as you do so. Now you also have to be aware of Flood using rocket launchers though. It's just as broken against you. You then move through this Sentinel Constructor Factory, which keen-eyed players could have spotted at the end of the previous level crashing down. I'm bringing this up because for the longest time I wasn't even aware I was walking through this factory. I thought it was just some weird designed corridor. Little details like this is great, but I kind of need more than to look out and away during a battle to get any kind of idea. So you find a Scorpion and have no trouble dealing with the next few areas, and then move up to find... Fuck! Another fucking gondola. The worst one in the game, in fact. This is the worst ride because the Flood keep dogpiling you and usually kill your allies fairly quickly. While it's not too much of a hassle on easy and normal, on heroic and legendary it will most likely cause you to smash your head into a wall. Luckily we can totally cheese it by jumping onto an elite and jumping up to these areas. The Flood will massacre your allies but will be unable to respond to your hiding spot. They are so impressed with your hiding spot that even if they see you and take some pot shots, they'll never actually leap up to you. Need to be careful though, as there are 6 platforms that will knock you off when you hit them. Simple to avoid really, just jump straight up and slide along the platforms. My guess is that once the game loads while on this location, your movement is locked to the gondola, which is why you still move while standing on these platforms. Just wait it out and eventually you can camera surf away to the ending cutscene. Oh hey look, it's Allison's stupidly named ship. No idea why it's still docked though. Wouldn't you want it to be in the air and away from such serious threats like, oh, I don't know, the Flood? Here we see Michelle and Al moving to grab the index. Why the hell is this whole area inconsistent with the previous game? And why are there so many wrecked Enforcers laying about? You expect me to believe the Marines took them all out? And what's with this tentacle that's conveniently located right here? It stands out so much, I'm glad they didn't make it come alive and do something.
You hear me, Marines? We got trouble.
Really? Al? You're surprised in a combat zone that something might happen to your Marines? Hey look, she's dual wielding, and poorly I might add. Meaning it's not something unique to Spartans, or the Arbiter.
You alright?
Oh, I guess all she needed was a good slap. Or an energy sphere thing.
A
bloody fate awaits you and the rest of your incompetent race.
Oh no, Tartarus is totally betraying us, and he's actually evil. If only I saw that coming.
They will take your head when they learn. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
Oh no, the Provost plan is revealed. They spared the Arbiter so they can get Tartarus to do his job and then kill him later. Wait, how the fuck does that make any sense? Okay, so they wanted the Arbiter to kill the heretic leader and claim the Oracle, but Tartarus was there to do it as well. Then have the Arbiter claim the Index, but have Tartarus kill him and take it from him right when he does so. What's the name of that trope where the villain's own decisions become their downfall? Seriously, why the hell did they spare him if they were planning on killing him anyways? What exactly did he do that Tartarus couldn't do himself, or using his own squads under his own command? Well, anyways, these two levels show us some more details on how Forerunners and Sentinels function, getting some new enemies and technology that expand the universe. Although, I think these little robots could have appeared throughout the whole level rather than just here at the beginning. The Flood is still annoying, but at least now we have human-infected Flood with human weapons to fight against. Although, I have no idea how we managed to bring so many Marines along on that dinghy. It's also probably the only levels in the game that gets us the most amount of weapons and vehicles to use as well. The vehicle sections make up for the rest of the level, and does get to show us how deadly Marines can be if they were programmed into the game to fight the player. Despite the enjoyment of vehicle play, we still have to deal with those bland corridors, those stupid column things, and that fucking gondola ride at the end. And while those enforcers may seem intimidating at first, their AI is easy to abuse and only become a real threat during vehicle sections. So as long as you can keep your distance, you'll be fine. The first level feels mostly pointless, just piss farting around until Rita shows up. Never really felt like we actually did disable the shield. Hell, it's easily overlooked since you only notice when looking up. More emphasis on disabling the shield would have helped.